What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to talk about keep, waive, or trade. This is usually a video I do twice a season, one for the off season, one for the trade deadline, as we discuss the entire Chicago Bulls roster, and I'll give my opinion on whether or not they should be kept, waived, or traded. And there's another option there, but I don't really like to use it. It's the let go option. Just let him go in the off season and whatnot. Now, usually this is a combination of what I would want and also what I think the Chicago Bulls would do in this situation. And for this specific video, we'll be talking about obviously from now until the trade deadline, which will obviously then lead to the off season as well. So for those people that are saying, let's, for example, trade DeMar DeRozan. Let's just put that as an example. People say they want DeMar DeRozan traded. For my, like, the way that I would see it is that DeMar DeRozan won't get traded until the off-season. So I won't say DeMar DeRozan should get traded now, for an example. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below, who would you keep, who would you waive, and who would you trade heading into obviously the trade deadline and of course riding out the rest of the season. There is a lot to get through here. Now again, as I said before, it's one of my favorite types of videos to make, and it's going to be based on what I think the Bulls will do as well as what I would like to happen as well. There will be a combination of both in this video. And we're going to start off with Carlik Jones, who is a two-way contract player for the Chicago Bulls. And I've got to be honest, the fact that we signed this guy pretty much in the middle of the season onto a two-way and we waived Kostas Antetokounmpo, it kind of shows that I don't necessarily think he'll be going anywhere this season for the Chicago Bulls. He seems to have impressed in the games that he has been playing, and at the end of the day, as much as I don't necessarily think we need another guard on this team for a two-way contract spot, a developmental program, maybe it's worth keeping, and I think we would end up keeping Carlik Jones onto that two-way contract. There's no real, I guess, big reason or big explanation that I have for this one. It's just a gut feeling. I just don't understand why would waive Kostas and sign Carlik Jones just for a couple weeks, couple months later. We're just going to waive Carlik Jones and bring somebody else on. I don't necessarily see that as the point, but we shall wait and see. If there's someone, let's just say, on another team that gets waived and we just want to bring him in, a two-way contract spot, I think Carlik Jones is the one to go. So we'll wait and see, but I just think we're going to keep Carlik Jones. That is my first and final answer for this player. Moving into the next one, Tony Bradley. This one, I think a lot of people want me to say this answer, and I'm going to say that's my answer as well. I think we need to waive or at least buy out Tony Bradley. And here's the reason why. I don't think Tony Bradley is going to have the biggest trade value in the world to go and put him in a trade or combine him in a trade. The only trade I really see for Tony Bradley making sense is if obviously it's a bigger trade and we're doing it to match salaries. Other than that, I don't think Tony Bradley has the biggest trade value in the world. And the reason why is that he's not playing games. He hasn't played really any solid NBA minutes this season. At least last season, his trade value would have been higher last season because he's on his first year of his deal first and foremost, but he was playing a lot more than what he is this season. So I don't think there's any question about it. I think, for example, if there is a buyout option that we want to pursue and we need to let somebody go, the person that would go would be Tony Bradley. And I see the Bulls being very active in the buyout market, like we were last season with Tristan Thompson. So I assume Tony Bradley would be the one to go, and that's why I think we need to buy out Tony Bradley. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, what I want as well, and that's what I think the Bulls will end up doing. Next up, we've got Marko Simonovic. I think this is an easy answer in terms of I think the Bulls are going to keep Marko. I don't see him being involved in a trade. I think they really believe the long-term goal is to have Marko playing for the Chicago Bulls. But I really hate how they've approached it, in all honesty. He's not even getting garbage time minutes. He's spending all of his time in the G League. And it's just a really long-term plan that I don't know if the Bulls will have enough patience for. That's how I feel about the Marko situation. If you're asking me personally, I think Marko can be up for trade for sure. At the end of the day, if he's not being played in the Chicago Bulls, at least in garbage time, then I don't know if he's really ready to play for the Bulls, and maybe he might not be ready to play for the Bulls. And if that's the case, then he should be up for trade in my eyes, but I believe the Bulls are going to keep him, which is why my answer for this situation will be keep. I think he will be kept. We'll wait and see what will happen next season or during the off season. Moving into the next one, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Malcolm Hill, two-way contract spot. Obviously a good three-point shooter as well, and I do think this is another easy answer. I think the Bulls are going to keep Malcolm Hill. The fact of the matter is, we had a chance to get rid of him last season. We could have had an extra a different player, let's say, in a two-way contract spot, but we persisted on Malcolm Hill. And I think the reason why we persisted on him is that he brings us something. He brings us shooting. But unfortunately, with two-way contract spots, you can't play them in the regular season games. You only have a set amount of games you can play them in. So Malcolm Hill doesn't get a lot of game time. But when he does get his game time, that's what he's going to provide for the Chicago Bulls when he does play. I think it's an easy choice. At the end of the day, I never really thought he should have had a two-way contract spot. I always thought two-way contract spots are always based on trying to develop younger guys to be ready for the NBA level. I think Malcolm Hill is 26 or 27 years old. There's not that much development left in him compared to some of the younger guys that we were, I guess, considering in that role. But if Malcolm Hill is still here, and he was here last season, I can't see them getting rid of him that easily. So my answer would be keep. Derrick Jones Jr. I think this is going to be a very easy situation as well. I think we're going to keep Derrick Jones Jr. The fact of the matter is, we play this guy as power forward, small forward, and backup center. And yes, he's on a cheap deal. I think his contract will work well in a trade, 100%. But at the end of the day, he's played so many positions and he's been so versatile for the Chicago Bulls team. I find it extremely difficult for the Bulls wanting to get rid of him. I think if we get rid of him, that might be one of the hardest, I guess, decisions that the Bulls have to make. And we're talking about a role player here, realistically, but it's a role player that works out in almost all of our areas. And he's actually doing really well this season, in my opinion. I think he's having a much better this season compared to last season. But last season, I don't know if this was statistically a fact, he was shooting better from the three-point line last season. But this year, he's playing all sorts of positions, he's doing all sorts of things, and yeah, I would really like to keep Derrick Jones Jr. I like to keep him, and I think the Bulls would keep him as well. The next player we're going to talk about is Javonte Green. This one is actually a little bit more difficult. One, I can't see them get rid of him right now because he's injured, and he could be a long way away until he actually comes back. That's one thing. So I can't see him getting traded anytime soon. But he's out of contracts this season. Next season is an unrestricted free agent, and there's a very likely chance that the Bulls will not have enough money to pay him. It is a likely chance. I know many people don't want to feel that way, but it could potentially happen. So if the Bulls feel like they don't have enough money, let's just say they want to keep Kobe, they want to keep Ayo, and they want to re-sign Vooch, for example, we're not going to have enough money to re-sign Javonte unless it's on a ridiculously cheap deal, and I think he's done enough to actually earn a payday in the NBA. So I see this going two ways. I see us keeping him and just waiting for the off-season, hoping he'll be available and we can bring him back. Or I think we trade him and we end up getting some assets back instead of just letting him walk for free. If that's a second round pick, if that's another player in return, whatever the case may be, I see those two scenarios happening with Javonte Green. But what I really think is more likely to happen is us keeping Javonte Green and not necessarily putting him up for trade, or not necessarily us getting a trade for him. At the end of the day, as much as we like Javonte Green, do you know how many people around the NBA don't actually know who Javonte Green is? If you're a Boston fan, you know exactly who he is. If you're a Bulls fan, you know exactly who he is. But there are a lot of players, or a lot of, teams around the NBA that I don't think necessarily puts up the value that we think Javonte Green is at. And there are a lot of fans that don't even know who he is. So I would say the Bulls are probably going to keep him. And unfortunately, I do see him eventually going to a different team in the summer. Or in the off-season, I should say. That's just how I think at the end of the day. Let me know if you agree or disagree. But with four free agents, basically, I don't think we're going to be able to keep them all. So we'll wait and see what will end up happening. Dalen Terry, this is an easy keep. He's a rookie. He's a guy that I think many people are begging to play more minutes than what he actually does. All he does is garbage time minutes. Billy Donovan and the coaching staff are taking a patient approach with him. Very similar to Marco as well. But this guy's absolutely killing it in the G League, and he has NBA written all over him. So I hate the fact that we still don't end up playing him, but he's still only in his first season. There's no way we're getting rid of Dalen Terry unless, again, it's packaged for a major deal for a different player. I just can't see that happening. Kobe White. Oh, things have got a little bit interesting here, ladies and gentlemen. If you watch my previous keep, wave, or trade videos, you would understand it's a little bit topsy-turvy with Coby White. Sometimes I say trade him, sometimes I say keep him, because he, in my opinion, is in the most difficult position to predict in the entire Bulls team. So many guards, so it makes sense to, I guess, trade Coby White, but also this man has been improved so much to the point where I don't want to let him go. If you're asking me personally, I would want to keep Coby White. But do I see us keeping Coby White? That's a different question entirely. I don't know what the Bulls truly think about Coby White and what their real approach is with Coby White. Do they see a youngster that can develop beyond what we could potentially get in a trade? Or do you see a player that at the end of the day is expendable and we can get good value out of him since he's playing at a really good level right now? It's a tough question. So I don't really know. I honestly don't know. But I'm going to go based on what I think, and I think we need to keep Coby White. Again, until the off-season, the Bulls still have the power in the off-season. He's a restricted free agent. We can match any offer that comes our way for Coby White, and we can also work on sign and trade. So I don't think it's absolutely necessary to trade Coby White now. But as I said last year, and as I'll say this year, it's the perfect time to trade Coby White if you want something in return. Because, again, teams will get desperate. Teams will be willing to overpay and be willing to give us a lot of things for Coby White just because he's playing at a high level. And contending teams might need that last piece to go and compete. And for some, that might be Coby White. So it's an interesting prospect. But I would like to keep Coby White. So I'm going to go out and say we should keep Coby White. Goran Dragic. This is a very easy one as well. I think Goran Dragic is a keep. Again, he recently signed for the Chicago Bulls. I think he'd be very helpful in a playoff situation. Again, having another veteran that can come in and use his playoff experience to his advantage. He played very well in the playoffs with the Brooklyn Nets last time they were in the playoffs. And I think he could do very similar things with the Chicago Bulls. I think we brought Goran Dragic in to help us in the playoffs. So at the end of the day, it'd be foolish for us to get rid of him. So it's as simple as that. I think Goran Dragic is a keep. And we'll move on into the next one, which is Alex Caruso. Now, I think Alex Caruso is obviously a fan favorite, but I don't think it's as black and white as keep or trade or keep or wave with Alex Caruso. The fact of the matter is, Alex Caruso is a very good trade asset to have. Whether we want to understand it or not, whether we want to believe it or not, Alex Caruso does have high trade value. And he's been rumored around different teams. The Warriors is only one example of that. Steve Kerr basically said to Alex Caruso, we would love to have you on the Warriors. So don't be surprised. As I said, if the Warriors come knocking on the Bulls' door and be willing to offer a trade up for Alex Caruso. And don't be surprised if the Bulls accept a trade for Alex Caruso either. Because we do have a lot of guards, and that does not necessarily mean that Alex Caruso is the one that's going to stay. It's very, very interesting stuff. But in the same way, it's very, very difficult, but I do think that we will end up seeing Alex Caruso remain on the Chicago Bulls. The one thing that we have to be worried about with Alex Caruso is how many times he's going to get injured in a season. And that's a very harsh thing to say. At the end of the day, I never want any player to get injured, but it is a concern for the Bulls when you see a lot of your gritty type players end up getting hurt multiple times a season. We saw it last season for Alex Caruso. We've seen, I think, 3 injuries with Alex Caruso this season, I believe. Minor injuries, but again, it's still injuries nonetheless that causes him to miss some time. So we'll wait and see. But if the Warriors do offer something unique, for example, my friend told me that if any offer comes for James Wiseman for Alex Caruso, we do that deal. I don't personally think the Warriors would do that, but at the end of the day, if that offer comes to your table, would you accept that? Would you accept that? A young, upcoming center that was picked number 1 in an NBA draft for Alex Caruso. Would you accept that deal? I'll leave that for you guys. But I think we're going to keep Alex Caruso. Again, I believe that the front office really rates him highly. And I think if there's any move that happens for Alex Caruso, it will be in the offseason. Andre Drummond is next. And I've actually got a funny feeling we're going to trade Andre Drummond. And that's my answer. I like Andre Drummond a lot. But at the end of the day, we are choosing small ball over him half the time. When he does play, he doesn't even get 10 minutes in a game. And at the end of the day, I just think the Bulls have kind of wasted the signing of Andre Drummond in many ways. I think we've wasted his time, and I think the Bulls have wasted their time in many ways. And it's so sad because Andre Drummond was the player that we all wanted and that we all needed, or not necessarily, not everyone wanted Andre Drummond, but he's a backup center, and we desperately needed one. And he was one of the best options available as the backup center choices. He wasn't, I guess, a Mo Bamba or a Mitchell Robinson or any of those guys, but he was still a capable guy that was much better than the Tristan Thompson-Buyer option that we decided to pursue. So it's sad that we're going to see, or I think we're going to see, a backup center end up leaving this team. But at the end of the day, that's the price you got to pay when the coaching staff decides to use small ball over a double machine most nights if he gets the minutes. That's kind of the direction I see this heading. And the only way I can find, I guess, trading Andre Drummond acceptable, obviously, again, his contract is very, very good. He'd be very good to have in, I guess, a package to match salaries as well. But also, he's a very, very solid player. I'd really like to see a small ball center come into this team. If Billy Donovan really wants to pursue small ball on a constant basis, the least you could do is go out and get a small ball center for your team. And that's what I want to see this Bulls team do. If you're so persistent on small ball, then please go get a small ball center. Stop wasting our time with Derrick Jones Jr. as the backup center for this team. I know he's 6'5" and is really athletic, but at the same time, I think he's much better as a forward. And let's just go and pursue a small ball center. What can go wrong in this situation if you're going to do it anyway? So that's my direction with Andre Drummond. But personally, I'd like to see him stay. I just don't think he will stay. Patrick Williams, I think this is a keep option. I know many people won't necessarily agree with that, but I just can't see the front office trading him. Again, we didn't trade him last season. I don't think we're trading him this season. There's not too much else to say. He's very much splits the opinion of Bulls fans across the world. People want him to get traded. People thought he should have got traded 2 years ago, or last season at least, after when he came back from his injury. And there are people that still believe he could be a superstar in this league. I don't know what direction he's going to go down. I really don't. I think he has all the talent, all the skills in the world, but he has to put it together. And that's very much easier said than done. I don't know what direction Patrick Williams will go down, but I know that the Bulls won't trade him until the offseason at least. And even then, I don't think he's getting traded. So I think we're going to be keeping Patrick Williams. And it goes the same with Ayo Dosunmu. I think we're going to be keeping Ayo Dosunmu. I think he's the guy that in the offseason we're going to pay as well. So stay on the lookout for that one. Then we move into Nikola Vucevic. Nikola Vucevic is on an expiring contract. I know a lot of people would say let's keep Nikola Vucevic or let's trade him and get someone in return because there's a possibility he could walk for free. The fact of the matter is the Bulls wanted to extend Nikola Vucevic in the beginning of the season. Vucevic wants to stay with the Chicago Bulls. So I think if the Bulls are going to try and test their luck, they're going to keep Nikola Vucevic and see if he'll sign a friendly deal in the offseason. That's what I think will happen. I think we will keep Nikola Vucevic despite a lot of people saying it might not be the right option. Lonzo Ball, easy decision as well. We're going to be keeping Lonzo Ball. Look, he's injured. I don't even think we can trade him at the moment because of his injuries. And yeah, I just can't see anything happening with Lonzo Ball this season. It's as simple as that. He's in our, I guess, rehab process and whatnot. He's been around the team all season. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be trading Lonzo Ball. Zach LaVine as well is going to be a keep. He's on a max contract. We're not trading Zach LaVine. Expect him to maybe... Look, I think the only way Zach LaVine leaves this quickly is that if Zach LaVine himself requests a trade. That's the only way, because in his first season, he's not leaving the Chicago Bulls team. He's on a massive contract. There is no reason for him to leave, in my opinion. So, unless, of course, the relationship with Billy Donovan and Zach gets worse, maybe there's something there that you could say Zach LaVine can get traded before the trade deadline. But in my opinion, there's a 99.9% chance Zach LaVine stays before the trade deadline. Simple as that. And it's the same with DeMar DeRozan. The only way I see DeMar DeRozan leaving this team is in the offseason. That's the only way I can see it happening. Again, I've seen a lot of things about DeMar DeRozan recently. Obviously, he's looking to return against the Pistons. That's a good sign. But at the same time, he's also a player that is looking to get extended. And I think he wants a max contract extension as well for his points per game tally and for him being an All-NBA player and an All-Star, which he's on the verge of being both of those things. So that could be very interesting for the offseason. We'll wait and see what happens there. But yeah, I feel like, again, there's a 99.9% chance DeMar DeRozan stays during the trade deadline. Keep in mind, all of my decisions here, all the things that I've said, is based between now and after the trade deadline. Basically, from now to the end of the season. And basically, because the trade deadline, you can't make moves anymore. That's why it's about the trade deadline. This is not what I think about the offseason. That video will come during the off season. But right now, I think the only trades that we're going to make are small trades to hopefully add something different to this team. Maybe trade Andre Drummond for a small ball center. Maybe waive Tony Bradley and go pursue a buyout option. These are the things I think the Bulls will do. I don't think the Bulls are going to make a big, massive trade during the trade deadline. I think it's going to be small trades to help boost this team, and hopefully we'll wait and see what will end up happening. Maybe it's to get more shooters, maybe it's to get a small ball center, maybe it's to get a rim protector, I don't know. But it's the small moves that I think we're going to do. I don't think we're going to make anything massive. And that's based off last season, but it's also based on the fact that if AK really believes in continuity, why would they make big trades like this until they know for a fact it's going to fail? I think it's personally failed, but they don't know that for a fact because we haven't not made the playoffs yet. There's still a run in us if we actually get our stuff together. So that's it for this video. That's the keep, waive, or trade. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Enjoy the 20-minute video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.